Hello, and welcome to another episode of Fibre Mates. My name is Gay. I'm a technical editor and avid knitter living in Melbourne, Australia, and you've found my podcast, which is all about knitting and also includes interviews of people in the Australian knitting and fibre community. Before I go any further, I'd like to acknowledge the Wadawurrung and Wurundjeri people, who are the First Nations group upon whose land this podcast has been recorded, and I'd like to pay my respects to their elders past and present. This is going to be my last podcast for 2025, and we'll welcome in 2026 with lots of new ideas and content. I would like to wish a warm welcome to any new viewers who are just discovering this podcast today, and also welcome back to repeat viewers. I love the community that we have fostered here with this podcast. We are having a pretty cool day in Melbourne today. I'm wearing my cloud watching sweater by Suzanne Summers, which is toasty warm. It's knit up in an Owl of Athena Surrey silk and spinning fibers, weaving tails, jasper yak, and I love this sweater. I knit it last year, I think. The light has been a real challenge this morning. We've got lots of clouds, but then the sun comes out unexpectedly, so if that's changing and causing an issue with the lighting today, I'm really sorry about that, but can't be helped. Let's see. Where to find me? I am on Instagram as Fibre Mates, as well as on Ravelry. My Ravelry name is GW Knits. My New Year's resolution actually is to be better about putting more information and putting all of my projects onto Ravelry, so I can have a kind of a list or record of what I have been or what I am knitting. I might need to do a WIP review early next year as well to try and maybe focus my knitting for 2026 on some WIPs that have been languishing over here on my WIP tree. Now, as well, in 2025, we've hit a few milestones on the Fibre Mates podcast. We've hit over 1,000 subscribers, which is a magic YouTube number, which is amazing. And that was my stretch goal for this year, and it happened actually in January. But over on Instagram, we have also reached over 1,500 followers, which is, to me, crazy. But I think it's just a sign of the growing numbers in the knitting community and people interested in particular the Australian knitting community, and that's so heartwarming for me that I thought I would run a bit of a giveaway. I don't know that I've ever done that before. Maybe I have once, but it's super exciting. I am going to give away this beautiful Maze and Veil project pouch. It is made out of the drop cloth, so it's the like overspray of the Maze and Veil when they did a screen printing. And now I have interviewed Leslie from Fibre Smith, who is also the brains behind Maze and Veil. It's beautiful. I will draw a winner before the next podcast, which will come out in January. So to win this project bag, drop me a comment about what your favorite project bag is, and I hope that this one will, once you've won it, will become one of your favorites as well. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's greens and pinks and blues. Fabulous. I have another project bag to give away, which we will do once we hit 1,500 subscribers here on YouTube. So make sure you share the love of this podcast with all of your friends. Now, The other piece of admin I have is that this month is the final month of the 2025 Love Locale make-along that I am running with Karina Moore over at Louie and Lola Yarns. That Cal is being run both on Instagram and on Ravelry. You can find the Ravelry threads on the Louie and Lola community page in Ravelry, and on Instagram you can post your finished objects and tag both Fibre Mates and Louie and Lola, and use the hashtag LoveLocale with a K, LOKAL, or LOCAL for crochet. And we'll try and find your projects. I generally will repost because I have an entire 2025 Love Local thread or story highlight where I've been highlighting all sorts of projects whenever I get tagged in them. So you can post your finished objects either on Instagram or on Ravelry in the finished objects thread. There's also a conversation thread that's separate but going on, so you can share your progress and connect with other like-minded people. Now, to qualify for the Cal, your project must be designed by an Australian or New Zealand designer, or a designer based in Australia or New Zealand. And the yarn used for your project must come from an Australian and New Zealand producer, yarn dyer, or yarn shop. So those are the parameters. We've had some amazing projects coming through the Cal all year. December's theme is Advents and accessories. So knitting up those Advent projects, I've got a few to show you a bit later, and accessories. So all your socks, hats, mitts, cowls, what else? Leg warmers. Any other accessories? Shawls, scarflets, all your gift knits will probably qualify. So I hope you have enjoyed that Cal this year, and Karina and I will maybe bring it back, not for 2026, but maybe part of it, or we'll see what kind of knit-alongs we can have next year. On to the main event. I sat down, I think it was just over a week ago, with Tess and Andrea. So Tess is the proprietor of Fluff and Nonsense. You'll have seen her booth at many a yarn show, both locally here in Melbourne as well as around Australia. And Andrea has a yarn business that has not been on Fibre Mates before, called Yarn Me Calm, and she is located down in Port Arlington, which is on the Bellarine Peninsula, southwest of Melbourne. Now, Tess and Andrea have decided to run a yarn show called the Geelong and Bellarine Yarn Show, and that's happening in April of 2026. So I wanted to sit down and speak to them all about the why, the how, the whens, the everything about the new Gabbies. So here we go. I'll take you over to that conversation right now. Andrea, Tess, hello. How are you?
Really well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Really well. I'm good. I'm really excited to have you on to talk about all things Gabbis. Is it Gabbies? How are you pronouncing it?
Gabbies.
Gabbies. And for those uninitiated, that's the Geelong and Bellarine Yarn Show. Is that?
Yep.
I've got that right?
Yep.
So Tess and Andrea are the brainchildren behind Gabbies, and we're going to talk all about that today. But I first want to let them introduce themselves in case you don't know them. So, Tess, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. My name's Tess. I am the dyer and designer, I guess now, from Fluff and Nonsense. I would describe myself as a lapsed scientist. I spent the first 10 years of my career working in laboratories, and then I started working in the yarn dyeing industry. So yeah, that's me.
Well, that's a little bit laboratory-esque, I think, yarn
I think
dyeing.
so. It's adjacent.
There's definitely some science to it as well as art.
Yes.
And there's a previous interview of Tess back in the archives. I think that was
there is, isn't it?
A couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to know more about Fluff and Nonsense and Tess, you can go back and watch that episode.
Yeah.
But Andrea, you are a newbie to Fibre Mates, so welcome.
I am.
So tell us about Yarn Me Calm.
My background is very, very different to the fibre world. Well, there's some sort of crossovers, but my background is I'm a clinical family therapist, youth worker, and therapeutic specialist. So I specialise. Well, my area of specialisation was trauma and attachment and developmental trauma. I used to, deal with all sorts of stress, and my stress and other people's stress, and I used to crochet to manage that. That was part of my self-care. So which I promote heavily to other people. And when I decided a few years ago that after 30 years in a sector that it was time to sort of slow down a little bit, being it's all relative, isn't it? I don't really slow down. I just have less stress.
No, you don't.
I don't slow down. Ask Tess. That's not how I do things. But I do have less stress in my world than what I used to. Decided that I really wanted to open a yarn store, but it needed to be a lot more than that for me. It needed to be a place that was about building community and safety, and a place that had using yarn as a therapeutic modality at its core. So that's really what Yarn Me Calm is about. Yeah,
that makes perfect sense now.
You've
got a beautiful piece of crochet on today, don't you?
I do. So I am a designer as well, and I do all sorts of stuff. I'm also on the Crochet Guild of Australia committee, and have been for a few years. So sort of mix it up a little bit. But this is a piece that is completely freehand. So there is no pattern to this. It's completely out of my head. I have taught this, but it's it really, every piece is very individual because it is such a freehand piece, but it's just a bit of fun, and it shows off gorgeous hand-dyed yarns as well. So if you've got one skein of hand-dyed yarn that you just can't bear to use frivolously, it's a really nice way to showcase it.
Yeah, it is. I'm kind of a newbie crocheter. What's your number one piece of advice?
So count your stitches.
Yeah, count. It's really humbling, but knitting and crochet both teach you that no matter how highly educated you are, you can't count.
Yeah, so count your stitches.
Use stitch markers and count twice.
It's crazy, isn't it? So I teach crochet, and I run beginners crochet classes, and I hammer that point home, and I do that because one of the things that I teach in the class is one of my designs, which is just a little coaster. Now I reckon I've made that coaster 100 times at least, and I have stuffed it up just as many times because I've just thought, I know this pattern, I don't need to think about it, I don't need to count, and invariably when I don't count, I stuff it up. So, it's that thing, make sure you count. That would be my one big piece of advice, and just have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're going to get together sometime in 2026 and crochet. You can help me on my crochet journey.
Absolutely. I can do that.
So you are both from the greater Geelong area. Why is that area significant to the wool industry?
That's a really great question. There's quite a lot of reasons. So for one thing, Geelong historically was one of the places within the Southern Hemisphere and actually within the world where you had fine merino being turned into goods and garments and blankets. Geelong specifically had something like 13 or 15 scouring and tannering facilities in the early 1900s, and that directly supported the Anzacs in World War I and II. So The fabric for their uniforms was created right here in Geelong. It was scoured, spun, dyed, woven into fabric that was then the Anzac uniforms. So we literally sent all of the Australian troops off in the First and Second World War in wool from Geelong. So it was one of the major hubs of industry within Australia in early Australian history. There's also been the development in the region of Corriedale and Polwarth sheep. So they're a little bit outside of Geelong, but they're still Victorian sheep. And, the Dennis family down in Tarndi, they are still very, very well connected within the community and very active. If you drive around Geelong, half the buildings in Geelong are still Federal Mills, scouring facility, tanning buildings. You can still see the facades and the equipment that are still there. It's a big part of our history that a lot of people just walk past now.
Yeah, and we shipped from Geelong specifically right across the world. So from the Geelong port and across the Bellarine, we had a huge amount of farms that were set up specifically for sheep farming. And so it's not just centric to Geelong, it's centric to the whole region, which is really fabulous. And I think you're right, Tess. A lot of people aren't aware of it. They see the buildings, but really don't think about what's behind it. I mean, we actually have the National Wool Museum here in our region, and that's there for a reason.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I highly recommend the Wool Museum. It's a really great day out, easy to get to on public transport from Melbourne. So, I don't think we could recommend it highly enough, actually, and the programs that they're putting on.
Yeah.
But like you said, there's lots of buildings now, but there's been lots of changes as well, right? Because I think I won't say they're empty. They've probably been converted to, other uses. But I know that recently the E.P. Robinson's facility has closed, the one in Geelong, and I had a grant where we made yarn from a particular flock of sheep that is urban, and we used Robinson's, and now we don't have that ability to actually get that wool scoured in a commercially viable way for the grant funding that we received for it. So it was a real shame. Why do you think larger operations like that are having such difficulty? Is there anything that we can do about it?
Well, first off, we're not farmers, so we can't answer from that perspective.
Yeah.
From the periphery as a dyer, I would say that there's a number of reasons that contributed to it. There's been a number of economic changes over the last 100 years. It's not been a rapid process. It's been a very long, decades-driven process. There was a big shift in the early 1990s during the last major economic recession. There was a large sell-off of a lot of the facilities and equipment within Australia for wool processing to places like China, New Zealand, Taiwan. And that was not done out of maliciousness, I don't believe. I hope not. But more out of the short-term goal of getting Australia out of the recession. But what that's meant is that now, 20, 30 years on, we don't have that equipment anymore. The other part of it that I think really contributes is we pay our workers a fair wage here, or at least we're supposed to pay our workers a fair wage here. And so the cost of everything being done here in Australia is a lot more expensive than getting it done overseas. So given the choice, I think a lot of people do choose to go overseas because it's more affordable and more viable for them, especially if they have larger quantities of wool. So,
and I think that shift's also been happening for quite some time as well.
Yeah,
so
it's a very long
yeah,
thing.
Yeah,
It's a long-term trend.
That economic and affordability issue is something that's borne out across multiple different industries, and particularly in all sorts of manufacturing and processing. And we've seen it consistently. And I think this is just, unfortunately, it's just been another example of that here in Australia.
Mhm.
And I would say it's also not restricted to one type of government. It's definitely not a Labor-only government. No. It's not a Liberal-only government. It is a successive generations of government thing, because it's kind of like an incremental change. They go, oh, well, we've just sold this off, so now we'll just do this one little tiny change. And they go, oh, well, now we've just done this little tiny change, we'll just tweak it a little bit more. And so it's all these little incremental changes that add up to this situation that we're in now.
Yeah.
So,
And I think in addition to that, there's also the fact that we had more recently, and I think it probably became really evident to us during COVID, how much we have lost from a national perspective in both the manufacturing and processing in its space. And I think that was something that was really relevant to us when we realised that we actually couldn't get things. We were in the position that we couldn't get things in, we couldn't import them, we couldn't export, we couldn't do any of those sort of things. So, and there was such a big impact. So it's unfortunate that whilst we've become more aware of it, we haven't actually done a lot about it.
Yeah. And I think that's also partly due to the cost of bringing the infrastructure back into Australia. Yeah. So Australia as a nation is very, very isolated. We also have really strict laws and standards about how things can be made, what they should be made of, the strength of like the materials that are used, like all of that has to be met for something to be brought into Australia. So there's a lot of hurdles to overcome to bring it back to Australia. But there are people that are working really hard to make that happen.
Yeah.
So if you want to make a change, support the smaller businesses and support the local industries that are here. So, like in Bacchus Marsh up the road from me is Cashmere Connections. If you've got a small flock and you want to get it turned into roving, send it up to Cashmere Connections. If you've got fleece that you need scouring, EP Robinson's has merged with a South Australian company.
Yeah.
And so send it over to South Australia. It's going to take longer because it has to travel further, but it's still being done within Australia.
Yeah.
So,
rather than it being sent offshore.
Yeah.
No, that's right. And I think that kind of goes into the next question, which is in terms of supporting small businesses, which is how did you decide to start a yarn festival?
So I have done quite a lot of yarn markets, yarn festivals over the last 3 years as part of Fluff and Nonsense. I love the travel. I love meeting people. I love talking to them. But one thing I noticed is that there weren't really like any large events on this side of Melbourne. And I started working on a plan, I'd say probably about March this year. And I approached Andrea and said, I've got this plan. I already have someone who's agreed to potentially sponsor it. Would you be interested in either partnering with me or sponsoring the event? And Andrea was like, well, I have a plan as well, but it was for Bellarine. So we decided to combine them rather than to compete with each other, because by combining, we can make it a bigger, better event.
Yeah.
So...
And both of us are real believers in working collaboratively, which is really lovely. So neither of us wanted to sort of be in a position that we'd have this competitive thing going on. So rather than that, and we're really excited because, then we could do the whole of the Geelong and Bellarine region. It was like, yay, let's put it all together. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really exciting, actually. We've had a lot of people apply. We've got a really great space hired. We're going to be telling people that they're in soon, so I can't tell you who's been in or not.
Oh, okay. So we'll have to wait for that.
But
we can tell you that Fluff and Nonsense and Yami Karma.
Yeah.
Does that help?
We'll be there.
Oh, fantastic. Was it hard to organize, or how, you both had the idea, how were you at the same kind of level of advancement of the plans, and then what did you need to do? How did that kind of come about?
We just we both had these ideas individually, and then I think what we did was we organised a time to catch up, talk a little bit about what our individual ideas were and what our visions were. And what was really lovely is that they really did align nicely.
Yeah.
And so it really wasn't a trial at all. Can I take
No, it really hasn't been. It's been...
And both of us just like to get stuff done.
Yeah.
So
We're both pretty organised when we need to be. I'd say Andrea's always organised. I'm organised when I need to be. Um, but yeah, we're quite lucky in that we both wanted a similar thing. We wanted people to have nice big stalls. We wanted it to be wheelchair and pram accessible. We both wanted it to be accessible by public transport and for the public. So, like, there was lots of things that we had in common with what we wanted that made it really easy to plan, because we weren't kind of going no. We weren't nixing every idea.
Yeah.
So,
And we wanted to support local businesses as well. That was a really, so local dyers and people who make notions and beautiful things that from the area. So we really wanted it to be very, very centric to Geelong and Bellarine region as much as possible, because I think that it's really about showcasing who we are in this region, and I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what are the details, I guess, and what can we expect? So you definitely have a date.
Yes, we do. We've got a date. It's April 18th next year. It's going to be running from 9:30 in the morning until 3 p.m. I guess we can tell them where it's going to be, Andrea?
Absolutely.
It's going to be at the Deakin University Waterfront Campus, because that campus actually used to be a wool store for Denny Lascelles.
Yes.
It's wheelchair and pram accessible. Unfortunately, you can't bring pets because it's a public space, but it's university owned. So the only animals that are allowed are service animals. There is free parking all around because it's a Saturday and it's Geelong, so it's not Melbourne parking with Melbourne prices.
Wow. I can also tell you that's pretty public transport friendly as well.
Absolutely. Yep. And so train, bus, and also ferry. So we are catching up with Port Phillip Ferries early in the new year to chat about all things Gabbies as well. They're a great support of the region. So happy to have a chat to them to see what they might be able to do to help as well.
Can I just say, I would think that a ferry from Melbourne down to would like the knitting ferry. Could you see it now?
Yeah, you could.
So can.
And you can also then go from Deakin down to the Bellarine and just have a nice weekend away.
Oh, and then you can hit all the wineries and the gin distilleries right across the whole region. And I can give a shout out to most of those, knowing them quite well.
Yeah.
But they are fabulous. Wineries, I have a couple, but the distillery is the Whiskery. I have to say, if you want to check out a divine gin, head down to the Whiskery, try their Teddy and the Fox gin, and have their blue cheese pizza.
Oh.
That I can vouch for. Yeah. And if you're wanting some wine, probably my three favourites would be Bennett's, Bellarine Estate, and Scotchman's Hill.
Whereas, see, I really like the Port Arlington Kitchen. So
if
you've got food allergies, they are really good at handling them, and they're great for taking care of you.
Yeah, so Tess and I often meet there, and we both have things that we have to be mindful of when we eat, and they look after us beautifully.
Yeah, but if you wanted to get food closer to the event, the nice thing about the Deakin campus is that it's literally walking distance from all the cafes along the waterfront and the food court up in Westfield. There's also a little cafe downstairs, and there's a little hole in the wall literally in the street between Deakin and the next building called Cunningham Street. It's called Brown. They do toasties, they do bagels, they have really good coffee and hot chocolates. So there's lots of places and options for food around here.
There's also Black Sheep in Geelong. Black Sheep does fabulous tapas, and they have lots of gin as well.
And they're part of the National Wool Museum. So you come down for the day and then have dinner at Black Sheep, who are also excellent at handling food allergies.
Yep, they really are.
And then go and see a footy game or whatever goes on. I mean, it's April. Footy season will have started. So if you want to bring your spouse, and they can walk up the street to the stadium, and it'll be great.
We'll send them down for fish and chips while you go and enjoy the festival.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's definitely something to be getting excited about.
Yeah.
I certainly am. It actually lands on my husband's birthday, and I already have a pass.
Ooh,
Nice.
I know.
yeah.
We will have demonstrators at the yarn show at Gabby's as well. Can't tell you who that'll be, but we will have some.
Okay, so like woolcraft
Yeah.
demonstrations. Any classes or workshops?
So no classes or workshops this year. We wanted to see how we went as an event
Absolutely.
the first time around.
Yep.
And then we'll have a look at introducing them potentially in 2027. But for 2026, it's just a one-day event with some demonstrations and a market. And yeah.
This is probably the only thing that we disagreed on, Gabe, because I was really gung-ho on wanting to go full steam ahead and do workshops and everything. And Tess is going, not for the first one.
No, not for the first year.
Yeah. No,
so,
I can...
lots of compromise on that one, I have to say. Quite happy to hold off.
Yeah. We have already expanded how many people we're actually letting in because of the number of people that have applied and the stalls. So
is it overwhelming? Have you had a good response?
We've had a great response.
Fabulous.
It's really wonderful.
Yeah.
And people have been really kind. And this, like, the really lovely thing is, like, you talk about it to, like, the hosting facilities or the people who are sponsoring us, and they're just excited to see something happen in the region. They're really keen for it.
And I think we can probably give a shout out for our sponsors as well, Tess.
Yeah. So hilariously, I met one of the sponsors at the Women in Wool conference, which was in Geelong, before I'd actually asked Andrea, and I'd spoken to this lady and gotten her to agree to sponsor me. And then I was like, actually, I've formed a company with Andrea and we're doing it as a big thing. And they were like, yeah, great. So this is Australian Wool Handling. So they are a wool handling logistics company. So they sought brokerage between shearers and the farmers, as well as between auctioneers and the farmers and the people who buy it for later use. So they're actually sponsoring us by helping us with the costs of hiring the facility, which is amazing. Tandy, down towards Colac, they've also sponsored us. Great Ocean Road Woolen Mills have sponsored us. So has Yarns on Shannon. So they're my local yarn store. They're local to me. They're not local to Andrea, but they're local to me. They've all been really kind and really excited about it, and they just want to see kind of that excitement in the community. And they love the idea of bringing it down to Geelong, because let's be honest, most of the events in Victoria are either northern Melbourne or other side of Melbourne, from like eastern Melbourne. They're not there's not really any events of a large size on this side of Melbourne. So I think it's going to be really fabulous and will really fill a niche in the market.
And I think the timing is really good as well. Like, I don't know, I think after Bendigo people have a bit of a hangover.
Yes.
If I can call it that. But by springtime we're all kind of itching for that. It's not just about purchasing, it's about like being in community with other crafters and knitters and crocheters and that whole group kind of vibe.
Yeah, it's funny, Gay, and that's one of the things that I talk a lot about is being with your tribe. Yeah. And, you know, just actually being with other people that share a passion, particularly about yarn and crafting and creating and designing and all those things. It actually releases oxytocin. So it's actually, it gives us that feel-good thing and is actually really good for us. So, you know, being with our tribe, spending that time together is just so, it's so cathartic, so healthy for us and so good for our overall well-being.
Yeah.
That makes absolute perfect sense, because I think after Bendigo every year I have like this euphoria. It lasts for several days where I just could like take on the world.
You feel energized and like you can plan all the projects and do all the knitting.
Yes.
And then sometimes the world hits you a little bit, but then you go and talk to your friends about yarn, and it's
right.
I'm convinced that a lot of the world's problems could be solved if women sat down together with some knitting or crochet and a hot cup of tea, and we sat down together and planned it.
I totally agree.
That we could solve a lot of the world's problems.
Completely agree.
Yes. I'm all about that.
I think it's a good time though as well, because like April, it's starting to get a little bit cooler, and so you can sort of think about those winter projects, and you can, like, if you've got small people in your life, I mean children, you can make things for them really quickly, and it's like a nice little dopamine boost. Or if you've got like, if you're like me and you struggle with getting the big projects going, you can start with like a little cowl or like a little beanie, and then you kind of like breaking the ice into the winter knitting, hyper crochet feel. It's a nice time of year to do it. And in Geelong, it's so nice because all the trees outside of Deakin, they're all plane trees. Elms, they're all elms, and they all turn like red and gold, and they're beautiful. So it's going to be a really, really pretty place. I like Geelong, can you tell?
I like it too. I spent 3 months working in Geelong, kind of like train in, train out, but I was there all week. And it was really, I really enjoyed it. And like you said, there's heaps of places to get good food, whether it's directly around the venue or up on Mollop Street, or do you know what my favorite used to be was Public Cafe that's attached to the library.
Yep, I know the one.
Because it's really close to the train station and where I used to work.
I think it's just going to be really nice to have a market where the idea is just to enjoy yourself and see some of the local industry, because it's a very simple idea at its core. It's just come and have a look at the stuff, because the stuff is awesome and so are the people. And I know that's a very simplified way of putting it, but that's what it amounts to. Is
maybe if we just highlight that there's places, particularly in Deakin, for people to sit and knit and crochet as well.
Oh yeah, there is. There's a lot of places for people to sit and knit in Deakin. There's a lot. The reason we hired Deakin specifically is because it's fully wheelchair and pram accessible, and the whole event is going to be on one level. So you go in through Jerringap Street, and you go in along towards the courtyard, and then that's where the event will be. But on that whole level, there are dozens of seats. There are wheelchair and hoist accessible toilets. There is a lift to take you down to the parents' room if you need privacy for breastfeeding or anything like that. It's all fully wheelchair accessible and pram accessible, and there's lots of places to rest. There's lots of little tables as well, so you can sit down and like show your projects and your haul over to your friends. Like, it's a really great venue.
Yeah. And what we'd love to see is, anyone that comes along and takes photos of their goodies and pops them up on Instagram and hashtag Gabbies, because I tell you what, it's, we're excited. So we just want to share it with everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to challenge people to meet a new vendor that they haven't met before, because that's kind of how Fibre Mates started.
There will be vendors that you haven't met before, because I would say I'm a fairly well-travelled vendor by now, and there are people that have applied that I haven't met. So I'm really excited to meet them and see what they've got. And I think it's going to be really great.
And I'm really holding out for a ferry from Melbourne.
Oh, so they do
love that
on weekends normally. So you can definitely get there by ferry. We're talking with them about the possibility of additional services. So I think if you want to catch the ferry. It literally stops right outside the front of Deakin, and then you just have to go up the street to get in.
It'd be even closer than the train station.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a nice way to get across the bay.
Yeah,
for sure.
It is such a lovely way. We go into the city regularly from Port Arlington, and going to the theatre and do all that sort of stuff, and it's just such a lovely trip. Then you have a glass of wine while you're on the ferry as well, and have a snack, and it's fabulous.
You don't have to worry about being over the limit because you're on public transport, and
that's right.
Being safe and considerate to others.
For sure. Andrea, Tess, thanks so much for coming on. We're really excited about Gabby's and can't wait to hear all who is vending.
Yeah, it'll be great. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for having us. It's fabulous.
No problem. All right. Thank you. I am so excited for Gabby's next year. I think it's just at the right time. it's going to be really a fun day out, and I'm looking forward to heading over there. Now, if you want a little bit more yarny content, I have some whips that I would like to share with you, along with my Advent and Advent makes. Here we go. The first whip I want to show you is the progress that I have made on my Stripes Away blanket. Stripes Away is a free pattern on Ravelry. It's put out by Emily Baldwin, who is the proprietor of my local yarn shop, Maker Store. And it is a really simple blanket that is done in bold, big bold stripes. Obviously, the name will give that away. And when I last shared this with you, I think I had finished the first stripe and I was maybe on to the second. And now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I am working on the fifth and penultimate stripe. So here it is so far. Wow, that is getting really big. And how fun is this? I'm normally not a fan of color pooling, but I think this just adds a bit of visual interest. But there we go. I've really enjoyed knitting on this pure garter project. I think it's just so rhythmic to just be able to knit and not have to worry about any shaping, any the only thing I really have to worry about is running out of yarn. So I just need to make sure when I get close to the end that I have enough to make a full garter stripe. So over on the front side and back on the wrong side. And it's all good. So it's been great TV knitting, and I'm loving how that's coming out. I'm loving the colors together. Even though they're kind of wacky and random, it's a different, I've not really played with color in this way, and I'm finding it quite freeing. The yarn that I'm using is mainly Morris & Sons Empire. I've had a bunch of skeins of 4-ply, and the colors are this one is Deep Scarlet, this is Orchid Smoke, Daffodil, Regular Smoke. This yarn is from a large yarn shop in Massachusetts called Webb's. They have quite an online presence. It is a Valley, I think the brand is Valley Yarns, and I think it's called Northampton or Northampton Splash, because it's got these splashes of color in it, and the splashes of color represent each of the other colors. And the last color that I'm using is this beautiful purple from Half Baked Hand Dyed, which is the color Awara, and that will be the last color. And I know I spoke quite a bit about this blanket in the last episode, but I wanted to share that I had made so much progress on it, that I was really excited about it. Anyway, Stripes Away, free blanket. It's basically 6 balls of DK, or 600 grams of DK. I think it actually might be a bit of a weighted blanket because it's getting a bit heavy, but maybe that's a good thing. I'm knitting mine on size 4.5 needles, and I think I said in the last podcast as well, so sorry if I'm repeating myself, I probably could have gotten away with a size 5, which would have made a bit of a wider blanket, but I think once this is off the needles and blocked, it will be a bit wider. Sorry about that color blowing out. It is quite bright. And now the sun has come back out, so This is just so full of squishy garter goodness. Yeah, it's great, and I cannot wait to actually give this blanket. So I'm gonna keep going with it. It's my evening knitting, so I don't have to think a lot in the evenings. My work's been really busy the last couple of weeks, and I'm really looking forward to going on leave, which I am doing at the end of this week. The second whip that I wanted to talk to you about is my Radvent Throw by Amber O'Brien. And I'm holding it in this beautiful Crystal Cat stitchery bag, which again is blowing out a bit. I'll hold it over here. Which is a huge bag, and I bought it specifically for this project because I needed a nice size that I could hold for the blanket, and I have found that this, if I fold the edges over, it just sits so nicely on the floor at my feet, and makes it really easy to draw up the yarn. Anyway, I am knitting this for Amber's festive cal that she's running right now. I think it runs until the end of Jan, beginning of Feb. And it's going to be a challenge because I'm knitting this in an old Hedgehog Fibers Advent. So I think this is my Advent from 2023. And I have it, sorry about that, my chair is so squeaky. Anyway, I'm holding my Advent in this case, which is just something that I've picked up at Kmart. So my friend Allie over at the Fibre podcast, you surely know her. If you don't know that podcast, definitely check it out. But so Allie kind of introduced me to this organizational tool for Advents, and it's just it wasn't that expensive. I think Kmart is where I bought mine. But how it is so satisfying to see all the little nuggets now from the squares that I have already made. So you can see I am working on my 6th square, and I will show you. These colors are a delight. It's the yarn is Potluck, and I think they're an 80/20. I've got one of the tags still left. Oh, it's a 90/10 merino nylon blend. They're called Potluck. And this is about, I haven't weighed these, but this is about how much I've had left over from each of my squares. And here they are, in no particular order, although I think this one was the first one. How great are these? I have since done the pinhole cast on. So there's a pinhole cast on here, and then you knit in the round all the way out, and you create these squares using the, well, there's charts and written instructions in the pattern, which is great. And now that I have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the pattern's getting a bit more intuitive to me. There were a couple places that tripped me up initially, but I've got that down pat now. Here's another one. The one thing I love about this yarn is that, like I said before, I'm not really a fan of pooling, and literally none of these skeins have pooled. And whether it's the pattern itself or whether it's the dyeing technique of the yarn, I'm not sure. But knitting with these highly speckled yarn has been so much fun because, oh, look at this one. This is definitely blowing out. It's bright. That's worse. The neon green in that is just crazy. And then the final one, this one might blow out as well. Oh no. I really enjoyed this one because it was neutrals with all these like yellow and pink pops. And that is the thing about knitting with this highly speckled yarn, is that you never kind of know what color the next stitch is going to be. And there's always a little bit of a color surprise, and that makes it really fun. So all of these being combined into the blanket, I think will be really fun. So you knit all these squares up. Oh, here's the one I'm working on now is crazy as well. Look at this. I don't think I've ever knit with orange yarn, so it's actually super, super fun. You knit all of these squares, and I'm knitting mine on a 4.0 needle. I am also holding the yarn with this bare, this is definitely going to blow out today because it's really bright. This is a bare Surrey, bare lace weight yarn. It's Surrey silk, sorry, 74% baby Surrey alpaca and 26% silk. It's a natural color. Yeah, no, it's not gonna happen. Sorry. It's a natural color. And I love the way it just tones down the speckles a little bit, because this blanket is destined for my bedroom. And I didn't want anything too off the wall, but it's going to be it's really an heirloom blanket. My Surrey silk lace is from Louie and Lola. And I bought what felt at the time like a case of it, but I think I went through one ball in the first 4.5 squares, so I'm gonna need, I'll be needing every meter of it. So once you make up the squares, you then will end up crocheting them together. So this is going to be my first kind of foray into crochet. And I think what I am going to do, my plan, is to crochet the horizontal lines in one color and the vertical lines in another color. Because after you do that, you pick up stitches along the border and you knit a border. It's going to be amazing, because I've recently discovered this sock set that I bought when we were in Japan, and I thought these would be perfect for crocheting the horizontal and vertical lines. And then this skein, which is also blowing out, let me see if it gets better. Yeah, that color for the border is going to be fabulous, and I'm quite excited about it. I love the fact that I'm using yarn from my stash to complete this project, and this is an Amirisu, they call it Trek hand dyed. It is, I'm pretty sure, 100% merino. It is their, it was like a celebratory sock set that they did for their birthday, so it's called the birthday cake set. This color is called, I think, whipped cream, and then there's candle blue and candle yellow. So this is going to make finishing the blanket even better, and I'm super, super excited for that. Did I say 4mm needles? I'm knitting it on my C knits. I have kind of decided to stick with my C knits and maybe grow that collection over time. So I love my C knits. So that project is underway. Fingers crossed that I can finish it by the end of January, and I'm loving it. And I'm quite addicted to it, because you get that little hit of dopamine whenever you finish one of these. And if I get enough knitting time, I can finish one in a day. So, oh, it's so fluffy. They're beautiful. Radvent Throw by Amber O'Brien. I want to talk to you about my Advent set that I got this year from Fibre. It's the hydrangea. It was the hydrangea. Hydrangea was the theme for the Advent, and I was immediately drawn to it. I wasn't planning on getting an Advent this year, but when I saw that Leslie had the hydrangea theme, I had to do it. My wedding bouquet was all hydrangeas, just a big blue bunch of them. I love hydrangeas as a flower. I wish I could have some plants, but anyway, the set is turning out to be such an amazing fade. So this is the first week of colors. And we start over here with this neutral with kind of purple speckles, and then traveling all the way down to this much deeper aubergine. And look at, they're totally my colors. And the second week has turned out like this. I just can't even, going from the purples, and then she's just transitioned into the blues. See, like this one has blues and purples, and now we're into, well and truly into the blues. This fade is amazing, and I'm trying to think of what I want to make with it. And the pattern that keeps coming back to me, or keeps that I keep thinking about, is called the Popcorn Cardigan by Midori Hirose. Now this cardigan is knit with one main color, and then the popcorns, or the little circles, are done in a separate color. And I think it would be so fun to do it with these colors. Here they are all together. And just have a fade. And I have some yarn that I think would be great with it, which is this one. It's also a super special yarn. It's Oda Matata wool by Philippa Cameron. So it's a single flock New Zealand merino. It says specialty fiber, a blend of our superfine white and black merino wool. So this is all natural color. And I think that neutral kind of mushroomy color will go with all of the colors. I might wait and see where the colors go at the end, but this is the top of my list, is a popcorn cardigan with this Advent set. It's going to require a little bit of maths because the pattern is written for 4-ply yarn as the main color, and this one is more of a DK. I think this one is, what do we have, 108 meters per 50 grams, so that's 216 per 100, solidly in the DK range. What I can do is, actually, it probably suits because I'll just make a smaller size, which means I'll use a little bit less of each color, because the popcorns, I think, are the fingering weight yarn held triple. So I was a little bit worried I might not have enough, especially at this stage, because it looks to me like that cardigan is a raglan. So in raglan construction, the point basically at the where the underarm stitches are put on, or the sleeve stitches are put on hold, the row before that is generally the largest circumference of the garment. And I was a little bit worried that holding it triple, 20-gram mini might not be enough. But if I knit a smaller size, my maybe it will be okay. We'll see. But I'm really now quite obsessed with this popcorn cardigan. I might alter the sleeves a little bit to, but we'll see. Maybe I'll fall in love with the balloon sleeve between now and then, or as I'm knitting it. And this Fibersmith Advent has been beyond my expectations. So even though I don't have extras, it's just a stunning and highly sophisticated fade, and Leslie, you've done an amazing job on it. And speaking of extras, I also wanted to share a little Advent skein that I got. I haven't cast this on because I've been so obsessed with the Radvent throw. But if you're watching Kath Martin's Mindful Melbourne Maker Vlogmas, you've already seen this set from Dizzy Devil. Kath and I ordered it, I don't know, a few months ago. And we each got the self-striping skein, but then we ordered a set of 6 minis, and then we split up the minis for each other, or with each other. And here it is. So here's the self-striping skein. I think it's really fun, and I will cast it on. I've already wound up the first mini, so this is going to be my cuffs, and I'll do those. I'll do the cuffs. I'll follow probably the Melbourne sock by Kath Martin, just plain, and I will likely do a peasant or forethought heel. And that's where you, at the point where you want to put your heel in, you just knit across and scrap yarn, put those stitches back onto your left hand needle, and then carry on with your sock, basically. And then you go back, and then you can pick up above that line, below that line, remove the scrap yarn, and add your heel. So you don't have to worry about cutting or unraveling stitches around the afterthought heel, which is what I don't love about an afterthought heel. I've never done one because I'm too scared to actually cut the yarn on a sock. I don't know why. I've done steeking before. It's probably foolish. I should just do it. Maybe I can make that a goal for 2026. Who knows? Anyway, I'll do that. And then I've got this speckly yarn here. And I thought maybe I would do the heels in this because it's quite fun. And then my last mini is in the green color. So I'll do the toes in that green. And that will be a really fun sock. So I'll do that as soon as I've got one other sock on the needles. I always have a sock on the needles. So this will be the next sock, I think. Anyway, Dizzy Devil. But the extras in this just kept going. Downstairs I've got, I don't know, 6 Christmas ornaments. Everything kind of came in little crackers. It came with this little Kitchener Stitch key ring, and I thought this would be great. I need to put this on one of my project bags. It came with this, these stitch, I can't remember what they're called technically, but they're little crochet hooks, stitch fixers, stitch helpers, and I didn't have those, so those came home with me. And then this little pouch, little notions pouch. And I feel like, oh yes, it was stuffed with barber cords. And there's a bit of tea. In fact, I should actually, maybe I'll go make that when I finish recording. A little eraser, which is handy because I use pencil a lot on when I mark up my knitting patterns, or even in, I know some people might be offended, but I write in my knitting books as well, so always in pencil, and I use the eraser, so that was very handy. And then this little pouch with a couple of really pretty stitch markers with little gemstones. A blue one and a red one. Beautiful. And I thought, oh, also there's a little face mask, which I haven't used yet. I'm not quite, it's compressed facial mask. Who knows? Anyway, all in a little bag. So that was really fun to have some extras, and I'll get some great striped socks out of that. So I'm really excited about that project. Like I said before, this is going to be my last podcast of 2026. Thank you so much for being in the Fibre Mates community this year. It's been an amazing year. So fun to look back on who I interviewed, all of the things that I've made. It's just been quite a year, and it's been nice to have the podcast kind of on a steady rotation in my life, especially when things outside of life have been like really hectic this year. Sorry, things on the outside life. Things outside of the podcast haven't really gone as smoothly as maybe I would have liked them to. But I guess that's life, right? I hope everyone enjoys the festive season, and I look forward to bringing you more beautiful content in 2026 and beyond. If you have enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing and sharing the podcast with your friends. And until next time, happy knitting!